managing segregation of duty, things like this. Remember that in the end of the day, the board and or senior management, they often interchange the terms, are always ultimately accountable for pretty much everything. And their biggest concern is about achieving business goals and objectives. Keep that as a theme, and it'll help you if you need to guess. It'll keep you on the right track because ISACA will trick you in understanding who really has ultimate accountability. Data owners along that line are typically the best choice for authorizing anything because they own the risk along with the data that they own. Remember, auditors can't work on their own work. They can't audit their own work. So therefore, as an auditor, you should refrain from actually implementing any solution or recommending any solution because you can't audit your own work. This is going to really get some IT people because IT people are accustomed to, give me a problem and I'm going to solve it. The problem is you're not a problem solver now, you're an auditor. And you just want to make sure that others solve problems well. You don't solve them yourself. Be careful about that, okay? So remember, steering committees typically are senior management. They have senior management. And so you need to understand that IT steering committees, however, are not necessarily senior management when it comes to authorizations and reviews. That's a little tricky. Remember that when ISACA asks you which of the following is your primary concern, it may not mean most significant, it may not mean most important, but they said the primary concern. It may be first in sequence. The first thing you have to worry about is getting money for the project, not doing something in the project. Oh, so it's not just what the project is supposed to accomplish being my primary concern. My first concern is, do we even have any money? Sometimes primary means a sequencing thing, not just the most important. Be careful about that. We also know that ISACA's scenario and process questions tend to be very subjective. And that means that trying to figure your way through questions, you've already learned in these practice questions, sometimes trying to use logic doesn't work out so well for you. Memorizing what I tell you to memorize, that works out much better. I know that that's taking a huge leap of faith in me, but I've been doing this a while. And again, sometimes logic actually hurts you in this exam because sometimes you'll even find contradictions between questions, and then you really feel bad. So again, remember too that ISACA does tend to make up its own formal definition, terms and definitions when it talks about checks and routines and things like this. Just roll with it. Don't worry that, wow, I've never heard of that term before. I must be stupid. No, you're not. Somebody who submitted a question made it up, but now it's on the exam and now you know, so you'll do well and you'll be certified. Test-taking strategies in scenarios asking you to identify the most appropriate action, default to the organization following approved standards rather than being attracted to a particular technical solution. ISACA is a freak for things being authorized. And so you don't just in an ad hoc way choose what looks to be the sexiest response to a problem. ISACA says, I don't pay you to think, I pay you to follow the rules. So before you try to create your own creative solution for something, better is to make sure that you're following authorized response process. Okay, yep. So be careful. ISACA says, and this drives me crazy, ISACA will say, well, you can't do the right thing. And if you can't do the right thing, what's the next best thing for doing the wrong thing? If you can't have the right control in place, you can't segregate duties. ISACA says, and then what should you do? So if I can't do the right thing by segregating duties properly, ISACA loves audit logs for ensuring accountability. So ISACA is almost always most concerned about change authorization rather than the change itself. It could be a bad change, but if it's authorized, ISACA prefers that over an unauthorized good change. Be careful. ISACA is a freak about change authorization. Again, ISACA offers many methods to check or assure a best practice. Again, direct observation is always your best bet, as opposed to getting information from third parties, and heaven forbid, in the end of the day, getting it from the client directly themselves. When it comes to horrid security scenarios that they may present in a question and asking you which of the following is your best response, auditors don't fix things. Don't choose that sexy technical response that you want to choose because you're not a fixer. Now you're an auditor, and ISACA is going to try to trick you up on that, so be careful. I say that to my IT people because IT people will love to fix things. Again, if you run across issues, you don't fix things. You verify that the issue exists, and then you report it. And then you may recommend that somebody fix it, but you don't fix it because you're not a fixer, you're an auditor. Remember that as a general rule, ISACA hates default configurations in IT, tends to be the primary concern if it's ever offered as an answer. I'm giving you ways to guess better if you ever find yourself in a situation where you feel like you need to guess. I'm hoping that what I've taught you will be familiar enough that you won't really be guessing, but I'm showing you as a last resort, if you're trying to choose between a couple of answers, these are the nuances that will get you over the edge and get you to pass. Test-taking strategies, again, addressing poor non-existing control policies is actually even better than fixing the actual bad control that a policy would have managed if it would have been in place. So testing a patch always takes priority over patch deployment, regardless of how dire the scenario. It is strange but true. So again, if an auditor finds a control that is not functioning properly, hasn't been applied, the proper solution is always to simply assess the risk and report to management. Remember, I told you, validate and then report. You don't fix things. Other details, let's see here. Remember that when you take your exam, and again, things change up a little bit now in these days of COVID and remote testing and so on. Yeah, so again, right now, I think we've kind of hit the end of things. Whoops, let me go back. Lindsay, I guess I'm going to turn it over to you, my friend.
Okay, thank you, Alan. Thank you to everyone for attending day one of today's course. Just a reminder that we've recorded the first day and that it will appear on the course landing page about 24 hours after we've concluded. We'll also send you an email tomorrow with a link to the recording. And then also from the live events page on O'Reilly, there's now a filter for your recorded events. You can use that filter to locate your recordings also. I hope that you have benefited from day one, and we look forward to your return tomorrow at the same time for day two. Goodbye, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you tomorrow.
See ya.